We've all been there, right? You step onto a patch of ice, and boom, the world just slips out from under you. We say ice is slippery like it's the most obvious thing in the world. But what if I told you the real reason why has stumped scientists for more than a century? And that the answer you learned in school, well, it's only a tiny part of a much, much cooler story.
Okay, so let's really get into this because figuring out why ice is slippery isn't just a fun fact. It means peeling back layers of physics to find this hidden, molecular level secret that totally challenges what we think we know. It's a genuine scientific mystery hiding right there in plain sight. So let's kick off our investigation. We're about to put one of the most common materials on our planet under the microscope to figure out its most famous and most tricky property. Now, if you ask a physicist why ice is slippery, you're probably going to get one of two answers. Let's think of these as the primary suspects in our little mystery. These are the textbook explanations we've all been hearing for years. And look, both of these theories sound pretty solid on the surface. First up, you've got pressure melting. The idea here, which came from scientists like Reynolds, is that all your weight focused on that tiny skate blade puts so much pressure on the ice that it melts. And just like that, you've got a little layer of water to glide on. Then there's suspect number 2, frictional heating. This one's simple. As you slide, the friction creates heat which melts a thin layer. Both make sense, right? I mean, they both create that all-important lubricating water. But here's where the case starts to fall apart. If it's all about pressure, then why is a frozen leak slippery when you're just standing on it? You know, in your flat-soled boots. The pressure you're putting down is spread out. It's way too low to melt anything. And yet you can still totally slip. So pressure melting just can't be the whole story. And let's take a closer look at our second suspect, frictional heating. That theory needs motion to work, but ice is slippery the very instant you start to move. Can you really generate enough friction and enough heat to melt enough water in a split second to get things going? The math just doesn't really add up, especially when it's super cold outside. So, if our main suspects both have some serious holes in their alibis, where does that leave us? Well, it means the real secret to why ice is so slippery isn't something we do to the ice. It's actually something the ice is already doing, all on its own. Turns out, the solution to this whole puzzle has been hiding on the very surface of the ice this entire time. It's not really about the pressure from our skates or the friction from our boots. Now, don't get me wrong, those pings definitely play a part. But they are not the main event, not even close. It's a mind-blowing idea, really. That lubricating layer isn't something we have to create. It's an inherent property of ice itself. And get this, the brilliant scientist Michael Faraday first proposed this way back in the 19th century. And this is the heart of the mystery. Scientists call it the quasi-liquid layer. Think of it as this super, super thin film. We're talking just a few molecules thick, where the water molecules on the very surface can't lock into that perfect, rigid crystal structure of the solid ice below. So they just exist in this weird, mobile, liquid-like state. That layer is always there, just waiting to help you slip long before your boot ever touches down. But believe it or not, it gets even more fascinating. The secret isn't just this pre-existing liquid layer. It turns out that how we interact with that layer is just as important, and it all comes down to chemistry. Okay, so here's the key. Imagine a surface that's hydrophobic. It repels water. That kind of surface basically just surfs right over the top of that quasi-liquid layer, almost no friction, easy sliding. But now imagine a surface that's hydrophilic. It attracts water. It does the complete opposite. It basically grabs onto that liquid layer, it sticks to it and drags it along for the ride. And that creates a ton more friction. The slipperiness of ice literally depends on what you're trying to slide on it with. And don't just take my word for it. This quote from the groundbreaking research sums it up perfectly. This layer is self-healing and self-lubricating. But whether you stick or slip is all about the chemical nature of the slider. It's this incredible dynamic relationship happening at a level we can't even see. Okay, so it's not just pressure, it's not just friction, and it's not just this crazy quasi-liquid layer. It's time to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and see the elegant, complete answer to our slippery question. The real answer is this beautiful 3-part harmony. First, you have that quasi-liquid layer that's always there, giving you a baseline of slipperiness. That's your spontaneous pre-melting. Second, when you apply pressure with something like a skate, you do enhance that layer. You make it thicker and even more slippery. And third, the second you start moving, frictional heat kicks in and melts even more ice, feeding that lubricating layer.
They all work together all at the same time. You know, this whole idea of multiple things working together reminds me of a concept from a totally different field. For a long, long time, people thought of nature as having this perfect, simple balance. But now we know that's not quite the whole story. And it is exactly the same with ice. The idea that there's one single, simple cause, oh, it's just pressure, or it's just friction, that's a myth. The truth is way more interesting. It's a complex, dynamic dance between the properties of the ice itself and the forces we apply to it. So let's just quickly recap the big points here. Ice is slippery because it has this amazing, naturally occurring quasi-liquid layer. That layer then gets a power-up from a team of forces: spontaneous pre-melting, pressure, and friction. And finally, just how slippery it is for you depends on the chemical properties of whatever you're sliding on. It's not one thing, it's everything, all at once.
And really, that's the big takeaway. Something as familiar as a slippery patch of ice turns out to be governed by this stunningly complex dance of physics and chemistry. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other scientific marvels are hiding right under our feet, just waiting for us to ask why?